3, 2, 1. Hello everybody, how you doing today? It's a new day, it's a fresh day. I hope you're up, shaking and baking. I always say that all my guests are fascinating people at the FOH podcast. And today I have a stellar guest. This old guy is not just a guest, he's my boss. I'm sure when I sent you the DM, you're like, who's this dude? And I said to it, I work for you.
It's a pleasure.
We have with us, yes, Mr. Niyi Adenubi, co-founder, VFD Group PLC, executive director of VFD Group as well. Welcome to the show, sir. How's it going today, sir?
It's going very well. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks a lot for reaching out. And I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to talk to your listeners.
Fantastic. All right, sir. So, sir, if you were starting VFD all over again with your co-founder, and what set of roles would you employ first, and why, knowing what you now know?
That's a great question. I think if we were starting today, we'll start with like a software engineer. The world has changed so much. Then we started with somebody in operations because we needed somebody to be able to move, to build the business, to build structure, stuff like that. But in today's world, you can do all of those things, or you need to do all of those things with software for efficiency. So what we will have done is to hire engineers who can very quickly build efficiencies into what we do.
Okay, fantastic. That's a great question. That's a great one. So, with all the challenges in Nigeria, all right, what's your most interesting sector, and why are you bullish about that sector?
We're bullish about a couple of sectors, right? Our foundation, our start was in financial services. So for that reason, we have an overweight in financial services sectors, digital bank, asset management, exchange businesses, and we still like those businesses very, very much. We're very excited about fintech. We think that there's still room to include more people in the financial technology space. But we also like hospitality. We think that we're building in Nigeria where a lot of people will end up spending their leisure time here. Historically, people always wanted to travel for holiday, go to the beach, go to this place. But we have all that infrastructure here. We just didn't develop them. And it's the same experience. If you want to go on a boat, you can go to La Cher, you can go to Becher, you can have a beautiful beach house. And we can create the Miami and the Barbados of this world, even in our own country. And it saves us getting dollars and going to those places. It saves us stress of logistics. And it also gives us the comfort of being in our own space to be able to not be guests and, real citizens of a place, which gives you a different kind of confidence. So we like real estate, we like hospitality, but we're rethinking it from the way it's previously done. We're not going to build more hotels like you have typically that is not even having full occupancy. But we'll build exciting projects that will excite the young people where they will want to come and hang out. If you look at what is happening across that landmark beach area, if you just see the development, and if you go there on the weekend or even a weekday, and you see the footfall, you see exactly how many people are interested in having a complete life. They come, they eat, they drink, they watch the sunsets, they play volleyball. They come with their families, their girlfriends, their wives. It's a huge market. It's a huge market. And we think that we're going to have more and more of those. Very
Interesting. I heard someone in the fintech space talking about the opportunities, that we have in the space and the billions of dollars that people do. And you compare that with the number of registered businesses in Nigeria. Is there still room for growth in the fintech space in Nigeria? And why do you believe that?
Absolutely. If you look at the BVN, which is the individual identification of number of people that have bank accounts, I think we're still sub 50 million, I believe.
Yes, I heard you say that in researching. I was very surprised. And we have
Correct.
200 million people in Nigeria, so the gap is really wide.
Correct. Before we had BVN, the assumption was that there were so many people that banked in the microfinance banking space and all those other alternative banking spaces.
Yeah.
And we had just maybe less than 10 million commercial bank holders, or 20 million or something like that, 30 million. But when we did the BVN, we found out that most people who have microfinance bank accounts also have commercial bank accounts, so we're double counting. Yeah, so there's plenty of room. Account holders in Nigeria today are less than 50, with a population of 200 million, a young population also, where 50% is very young. We think the room for financial play is still very large.
That's very, very powerful. That's very, very powerful. So we have a skill gap in Nigeria, very huge skill gap. I mean, as an employer of labor, you see the skill gap every day, and you look at how technology is evolving and where you want to take your company to. How are you dealing with that gap in terms of skills? Plus the fact that a lot of young people have left the country. So how do you manage that? Yes.
It's a real challenge, as in a really real challenge, not just for our company VFD and its portfolio companies, but for the country. If all our good doctors will move to England and Canada and the United States, it means that even we that are left behind run the risk of not being able to get adequate health care because the midwives, the nurses, the doctors, they've left. Software engineers that are supposed to be here building the companies of the future with innovation, with excitement, understanding the needs and building solutions to solve it. They now all want to work in Silicon Valley or in Australia or Canada or England. So it's a trend that we need to stop very quickly. It's very difficult. Everyone's trying to manage it right now. The government needs to play a very, very significant role in making sure that young people feel comfortable, feel vested in this country, so we can reduce the jackpot trend. And we've seen it happen before. When we returned to democracy under Obasanjo, many of us were in England or America, but we all came back because we saw the promise. The economy hasn't worked quite well in the last few years, and that's why we've seen the jackpot trend come back up. But I promise you that once the government gets the right set of policies in place and it gives young people the confidence that the future is better here, many will return and ultimately many will stay.
So you have a co-founder as well, Mr. Nonso Okpala, as a partner. And I've had a partner before in my business and it didn't work. It didn't work. So I want your advice, because I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this right now. Charlie Munger was interviewed recently. He and Warren Buffett, they've been partners for 50 years plus. Berkshire Hathaway, 50 years. So what advice would you give to people if they want to build partnerships? You know what Charlie Munger said, the first things first, that first of all, you got to like each other.
Yeah. It's true.
So talk to us, young people want to start business, they have partners. What's your advice on partnership or having a co-founder?
That's a very brilliant question. In VFP space, we're actually more than 2 founding partners. There are about 5 of us that are the founding partners.
Brilliant.
But like you said, the foundation is that even if it's work that brought you together, the project or the mission, you have to like each other. You have to trust each other. And you have to look out for each other. You have to be family. I have to be able to trust that my partners will look out for me in the same way that I will look out for them. But that is also not enough. In terms of operationally, there's no 2 human beings that are the same, right? So when we always have different ideas, and different approaches. I think where the problem usually comes in is that everyone always feels like their idea is the one that should be taking, and if he's not taking, you're not interested and stuff like that. And that's where the challenge comes in. I also learned a lot from Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. For Nonso and I particularly.
No, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Those two people are
big fan.
As well. We've learned from them. And what Charlie Munger said about his relationship with Warren being the executive chairman, is he said, I agree with Warren 90% of the time. We're aligned.
Yeah.
Right? So if he makes a 10% decision out of 100 of something that I'm not aligned with, is it worth it for me to throw it all away just because we're not aligned 10%? And that's, I think, has really helped me
very wise
personally.
Man.
Yeah, very wise man. Personally. And you also don't know when you're going to be right or wrong as well. There's so many things I thought that I was right about that I ended up being wrong about. And I'm sure vice versa for my partners. So it's like a marriage, you know. Sometimes you fight for some things, sometimes you let them go. But as long as there's love and friendship and trust, it can thrive. Yeah. But another thing that we did well though, was from a very early stage, we got governance right. Governance was very important. So it was always
I love it.
So it helps set expectations. It helps set limits of power and influence, and that cascaded across the company. And I would say, especially in those early days, it was the ingredients that was most essential for our success.
In researching you, I called one or two people that I felt that they worked with you, they understand you, or I asked my audience, what kind of question would you ask? And somebody asked a very good question. He said that VPay, VFD is one bank that we've never had any scandal about. No issues. What is culture? How has that helped you? We know Nigeria, everybody complaining, but they said that, wow, no issues, man. So that's the question. So they said I should ask you, how do you build a sustainable culture like that? And how be able to navigate the space in Nigeria?
I will invoke Warren Buffett again, and I think also Charlie Munger. Warren said, if you lose money, you can always make it back. If you lose your reputation, you probably don't get a second chance. That's the kind of mindset that we have at VFD. So from the very word go, our culture was one of excellence. You had to do what was right, and you have to do it in time, and you have to execute. There's zero tolerance or very low tolerance for substandard behavior. And that's the guiding principle of what's really helped us to stay out of trouble.
What's the one book that you have recommended? Yes, fantastic. What's the one book that you have recommended or bought and given to a lot of people, and why?
I love reading and I love books. I can be a little bit of a bookworm. There are a few books that transformed my life.
Tell me.
Again, one of them was influenced by Warren Buffett. It's a book called How to...
is it the Almanac of Warren Buffett or the Tower of Warren Buffett or the Tower of Charlie Munger?
I've read all of Warren's books out there, every one of them. And I've read a lot of stuff about Charlie.
Oh my God! I should get you a Warren Buffett bust.
Yes, please. I would like that.
I should get you a Warren Buffett bust.
Committed by Nigerian artists, of course.
Go ahead.
So I've read like everything about him, but he also spoke about a book that in the business that we do anyways, business of investments, business of finance, business of credit, business of judgment, you need a little bit above average IQ to succeed in it. What you need plenty of is emotional
Yes.
intelligence and discipline. And I've read many books
That's right.
about how to build relationships, how to maintain relationships. And so the book he called How to Win Friends and Influence People was very transformational.
Influence people.
But
Dale Carnegie, yeah.
Dale Carnegie, great book. Another book that was particularly very useful for me is a book called The Second Bounce of the Ball, right? By
never heard about that.
Yeah, there's a British private equity guy. He started the private equity movement in the 80s and early 90s that was going around the Western world at the time.
Wow.
And the book, by its title, talks about the second bounce of the ball. And the idea is that if you're on the playing field, you can see where the ball is going to bounce when it's bouncing. The next bounce, we all don't know exactly where when it's moving. So it's moving, it's landing, it's bouncing again. So because it's landing, people are already surrounding it, right? Where you want to position yourself is on the next bounce because it's already crowded. But it's so hard because
come on, brother, come on, man.
Exactly where it's going to land, right?
Yeah, so
people who really make a difference. Who are able to develop a good judgment and anticipate exactly or close enough where that ball is going to land, give themselves some space, and create magic out of it. And in football parlance, the greatest footballer of all time, he does this better than anyone else. Messi can read a game in a way that nobody else can. That's why the ball always lands for him in very strategic positions because he has anticipated the movement of other people, but also the next bounce of the ball. So when we, just to relate it to what we did, when we started VBank, right, a digital bank of that era, for this era, it was new, it was fresh. It was very easy to be fixated on the traditional banking mindset. But we already saw that the market was going to change. Younger people wouldn't care about brick and mortar type banks. And they were comfortable with digital brands. And we were able to position our bank in such a way that even to us, it exceeded our expectations. In a very short period of time, we got over 1 million users, which has been really rewarding. But that's because we were able to anticipate what was to come in the game. So now, what's the next game? Where's the next spot? Where's the ball going to bounce next? Is where we all need to be positioning, for example. So in the global world today, it's AI, right? Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. Nah, this is really beautiful. Charlie Munger said that never disrupt anything that is compounding unnecessarily. One of my favorite of his quotes. Did you hear that? Great. So, just let it be. So, Miss Niyi, you deal in a country whereby we don't allow our investments to steal, or we want it sharp. How do you handle our mentality of having sharp? And I want you to advise young people on the fact that it's not only money that compounds, your skill level and your judgment level compounds. Because the Niyi of today is not the Niyi of 5 years ago. Your judgments right now and your proficiency is way better because you have allowed it to compound. Can you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. And, it goes back to the thing that they say about you don't need to be a genius to be financially free, financially successful, and even wealthy. You just need discipline. And discipline speaks to when something is compounding and is working, just stay with it. There's an eagerness to put your hand into dipping, anything that you want to put your money in. And you should just not do that. Unless, of course, it's very, very compelling. But the truth is that compelling ideas don't come around that often. That's also the truth. So if every week or every month or every half year you're seeing a compelling,
you get a new idea.
your distillation process is faulty, right? So if something is working, it's compounding.
Come on, man.
That discipline is likely to
this
get
is so
you
fun.
further along than to keep trying your hands in too many things that ultimately will zap your initial capital. So I always like to say, easiest way to get rich, surest actually, is by compounding your savings or your disposable income at a very decent rate vis-a-vis the risk, and then just let it grow. There will be times where you find an opportunity to make an investment in a unicorn. Take some money out, put it in, but don't make it a frequent habit, because you're likely over a 5-year period going to lose more money than if you just stick with a couple of things that you let grow over time, as long as they're working and they're compounding well.
Very good. Which, apart from the Nigerian ecosystem or the African ecosystem, which fintech company you look at and you go like, wow, they get it? I'm looking at Revolut Bank. They are, I don't know about you. I don't know if you observe, if you're in the UK, right? Just next time you just observe any Nigerian student you see, any Nigerian that just come to the UK, you see them with the Revolut Bank card. I've been thinking about that pattern. Where did they get it right? Over 30 million users.
So that's a great question as well. Monzo, Starling, Revolut, all of them, came out about the same time with this digital banking concept. But there's been sure winners. Some people have gotten the strategy right. So many of them also anticipated the next bounce of the ball, but not many have been able to create the most beautiful company out of it. Revolut, I can't tell particularly why their strategy is working above of any other person, because I see them, I use them, I know they're great, but I don't pay that much attention to the UK's ecosystem in terms of, is it a marketing game, is it value, what are they selling? But I know that as of today, they're superior to most of the other brands, and they must be doing something right. Yeah.
Fantastic. But, you collect art.
Marketing to students and young people is a great strategy. When we launched BeatBank, one of the things that we did was to go to universities and go to NYSC camps, knowing that those people are
very good
at their economic lives, and if they start to bank with us that early, the likelihood that they will bank with us forever is high, as long as we continue to deliver the service. So it's not a bad strategy if that's what Revolut did.
Very good. Very good. I always tell people that all you need to do is, I'm not saying this because you are here, I tell people just use VPay. You will not return back to your old bank.
Thank you so much.
Trust me. Just use. This is all I just say. I just say, okay, just use it. Just use it. If you use it, you will not return back to your old bank. That's all I do. In some of my trainings, I just tell some clients, I say, don't even pay me for this. Just ensure that, give us some of your accounts. I know I will get paid. I'm thinking long term. Yes. Niyi, you are an art collector. You collect art. And that's one of the things that intrigued me about you. I'm like, why? How did that passion come from? And what advice would you give to somebody who wants to start collecting art and they say, Ogani has money now. He's a big man now. I don't have money, I beg, Jare. What do you say?
Art collecting has become something of a passion. But support for artists, both art students and young artists that are trying to make their way in the art world, has now even become more of an obligation. Because artists create things that that are not that functional for us to live our daily lives. Right? But they're very, very important, right? They don't create food, they don't create cement, they don't do that kind of stuff. But they think and they create and they help us think. And they help us remember our past. They help us project into the future. They help us protest against issues that are wrong in society. So I think that the role that art and artists play in our world is extremely crucial, very, very crucial. So for that reason, I support artists. But I also love beautiful pictures and aesthetics. So I do collect quite a bit.
Yeah.
You don't need money, or you do need some money, but you don't need too much
Yeah.
money to be collecting. As long as you're
Yeah.
interested, there's so many price points in the art world that you would always find something within your budget that you love so much. But I can also assure you that in the last 10 years, Nigerian and African art has taken off so much. And I can only expect to see more innovation in that space, including financial assistance type solutions that can help middle income art collectors collect more by finding a way to provide them financing for it. I think we'll begin to see some of that in the market. And that, if we can champion some of that too, that would be good.
Niyi, can you tell us a little bit about your growing up years? And did you ever figure that you were going to be an entrepreneur or you were going to be an professional? And if entrepreneurship, were there some entrepreneurs that really inspired you, that you looked up and was like, wow, I want to grow a business like this? Who are some of those?
Great. I grew up in Ibadan. I went to
Lovely.
What I like to describe as one of the greatest educational gifts I got. I went to international school in Ibadan. My dad insisted that I go there because he wanted me to have the exposure. I loved every bit of it. At the time, Nigerian schools were such that you had all classes of people, at least relatively, in the same place. So you could have an extremely wealthy kid, an averagely wealthy kid, and you could also have the kids of a lecturer who are very intellectual, but maybe not economically so rich. Yeah. So it gives you the dynamic of what a broader world looks like. So very early on, one of my best friends, his dad was an economist and a financier, and he worked out of a small office building in Ibadan, and he was incredibly wealthy, and he controlled loads of businesses, including banks and conglomerates and manufacturing companies listed on the exchange, owned some companies in England at the time, and he did everything from a small army of workers who worked with him. So I used to ask, what does he do? All the economists I know are university professors or the accountants or something like that. So I was very fascinated about what he did, how he did it, and that kind of started guiding me towards me knowing and identifying what I wanted to do. But the other thing is, through movies, I then watched The Pretty Woman when I was about maybe 15 years old or so. And from that movie, it also reminded me of him. But I saw exactly how I wanted to be, who I wanted to be, my inspiration. And I was like, I want to, because I'm also a bit restless. So I want to have access to so many businesses. I want to have insight into so many businesses. I want to be an investor across the board. I want to be able to buy companies, sell companies, invest in startups, build strategies to consolidate companies and stuff like that. And I was able to be inspired by that movie, The Pretty Woman. So that's when I actually started taking steps towards what I would do and all those kind of things. And of course, ultimately, I found Warren Buffett, and then I digested everything there was about him, and I got the clarity of how.
Wow. Wow, so powerful. I'm going to send you Charlie Munger's latest interview.
Okay.
They interviewed him last week. It's 99. It's going to be 100 next year. So someone interviewed him last week. It was beautiful. I'm going to send you a link in the DM or something so that you can listen to it. Yes. Niyi, this has been a very, 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 really, really fascinating conversation. I knew I was going to enjoy it. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule. Oh my goodness, I truly enjoyed this conversation. Niyi, when I come to Lagos, if you're in the country, I like to do a part 2 of this interview with you physically, if you're okay with it, even if it's 15 minutes.
That would be amazing. It would be great to host you. And I can see all the beautiful books you have behind you. You can tell you're very intellectual. And thank you for running.
Thank you so much.
Encouraging young folks and any folk around the world that we can all wake up, believe, dream, execute, and let it happen. So I'm glad that I'm able to participate on this platform. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Thank you. I'll stop the recording now, then I'll just ask you one or two questions and then we're done.
Okay, great.
Let me stop the recording now.